Good morning. This is Dr. Lightfoot, your professor for SB 405. And what I wanted to do today is just talk briefly about Black Swan events and the reality and recovery as it relates to those events. This fits in really well with our overall topic of strategic planning in this capstone course. First off, where I want to kind of start is by looking at what is a Black Swan event. So if we look at definitions, a Black Swan event is defined as an unpredictable event that's beyond what is normally expected of a situation and has potentially severe consequences. Black Swan events are characterized by their extreme rarity, their severe impact, and the widespread insistence that they were obvious in hindsight. And I suppose, what we can say about them is that they really are predictable in their unpredictability. What I mean by that is that we know that something is going to happen that will disrupt our world, or at least our piece of the world, at some point in the future. Now that's a broad statement. And if you think back over your lifetime, go back into the, from 2000 onward, you can consider events like there was actually what was called the stock market bubble, or a crash related to internet stocks around 2000 and into 2001. Of course, there was 9/11 in 2001. Then you had a tsunami that affected a lot of the world, although not the U.S. so much, at least not directly, in 2004 or 5. Then we had the 2007, 8, and 9, what we call the Great Recession, and certainly you'd be old enough to remember that and the direct impact that had on your families. It was very real. And then you can move forward into other events that have also occurred over the last 10 years or so, from Brexit with the UK deciding to leave the EU, and then of course this great pandemic that we're facing with COVID-19, or the coronavirus currently. So all of these would be sort of considered Black Swan events. Again, not predictable, except in the sense that we knew something might happen or occur. So typically the organizational response when there is some kind of Black Swan event is, in the immediate term, we're trying to protect ourselves and our team. So I know during the last week, for example, you've probably been inundated with a lot of emails as we attempt to try to keep you on track for graduation and or just simply successfully completing this semester. We also try to serve our clients as one can. So that can range from just, the leadership of a church reaching out to support all the members of their church, a club or organization doing the same thing, or what we've seen tremendous amount of is communities just coming together to support each other. Of course, organizationally, we try to keep some normalcy as it relates to work, even if we're not able to interact the same way. And then, of course, seeking help and guidance. Longer term, we plan for the recovery and whatever the new world looks like. So, after 9/11, some of the more tangible things were, we saw at the airport a much stricter set of controls in terms of people just simply getting on airplanes and traveling around the U.S. as well as around the country. And that had ramifications throughout. And then we also start thinking through about how do we plan for future Black Swan events? How do we plan for the unknown in terms of what kind of impact or what it might even be, as well as the timing? And then we may even think of seeking competitive advantage somehow. So when we dig deeper into the planning for Black Swans, one tool or technique that's emerged over the last several decades is what's called scenario analysis. And this is, simply put, imagining and planning for a wider range of possible futures. So it's looking at those kind of Black Swan events that could occur, from pandemics to conflict or war of some type, to other kinds of natural disasters, tsunamis, earthquakes, tornadoes, etc., that could happen even if we don't know with certainty when or how or where they'll happen. And some of the success factors related to scenario analysis include asking the right questions, understanding the right magnitude, including as many people as possible, looking at the realities as well as the remote possibilities in terms of the potential for something occurring, and then also looking for outside input. and creating ultimately effective stories that help tell what's going to happen, and also considering how you're going to communicate effectively. There's also another technique called threat assessment, or you could call it risk assessment, and that's where you review from a human point of view and safety and security of your people, the kind of physical damage that might occur to any facilities or, again, people, any long-term disruptions such as you might have in supply chains or financial sources and lenders. How are you going to communicate, and what is your communication strategy and tools and techniques? What about reputation and brand? And then overall, how are you going to continue to operate your business, especially when something has been so disruptive and so effective? So finally, what's behind a Black Swan event? Well, if you think of the enablers, it's easy and quick travel between places, so air travel in particular. The immediate spread of information. We find information out that maybe on one hand gives us hope, but on the other hand also can set off some fears and panic. That can be autocratic leadership, people that deny that something is going to happen or attempt to minimize it simply by inaction rather than action. Or sometimes progressive action too that runs contrary to what should be done. So this is an example of where really you've got to turn it over to the experts that truly understand the science or what's happening, and also perhaps have already done some of the scenario analysis and know how to resolve or at least mitigate or minimize the impact. And of course, overall proliferation of technology and our dependence upon technology certainly sets things up. And again, some examples from the Asian financial crisis to the 911 to other things that have happened in Europe, in Asia, in China specifically, the UK more recently, and then now. And so, just some things that have happened, and that's, quite a few. And if you dig into it a little deeper, you'll see the very real impact in terms of financial impact. So, I'm going to be 60 years old this year, hoping to retire within the next 10 years, certainly. And I know my retirement funds have taken a huge impact. So the question I have is, when will they recover? And also, how much deeper might things go, and how much worse might things go over the next month or two as the story continues to unfold? And so those are certainly unknowns that I'm trying to understand and trying to react to at the moment. So with that, I hope things are going well. I'm going to reach out to each of you, but if you have any questions in the meantime, please contact me at w.lightfoot@snh.edu, and I hope you are doing well. Thank you.